For today's episode of my Best of 2024 series, we're getting to the best puzzle games for all the mild, mid, and extreme brain melting one could ask for. We have a very interesting mix of puzzle games for this year. Some that are very traditional in terms of their appearance, and some not so much. And our first pick definitely highlights the latter, with Children of the Sun. By the footage that you should be seeing right now, this does not look like your thinking man's kind of game. But what we have here is a puzzle game dressed up as a super over-the-top ultra-violent shooter. It's not about you running and gunning, but you properly planning how you want your bullet to go from point A to point B, C, D, E, F, G, bounce off of something to hit H, and repeat. The style of this one definitely helps it stand out, but as I said, this is not a game that's going to be reflex driven. You have to plan out exactly how you want your bullet to go, and there is definitely a best strategy for each map. So this one gets a recommendation if you're someone who likes to think, but you also want to think more about how to improve your killing ability rather than your puzzle solving ability. And because I love to just completely ping pong between different styles, our next entry is Hexahedra. If you are a fan of the Zack-likes, for all the crazy optimizations and figuring out the exact order and placement of things, such as in Space Chem or Infinifactory, then this is definitely the game for you, as you must design the layout and the order in which operations must be done in order to complete a variety of tasks. This one is definitely high up on the complexity scale, and maybe a little bit too much for me, especially with my limited time these days. But I know there are plenty of Zack-like fans here in the audience, and if you love histograms, figuring out that exact order, and of course, properly timing the different actions to make sure they're all aligned, then you definitely need to play this one. So let's say you like puzzles, but you're not into the super, again, detail-oriented nature of programming and stuff like that. What about a game that splits your focus 4 different ways? Our next pick is Quadroids. This is a puzzle platformer where the twist is you are controlling up to 4 different screens at once. For someone who is very good at multitasking, you're going to get a kick and a jump and a run out of this one. And this is a great example of a game that takes its concept as far as one could go, as you'll have different challenges, the environment will be shifting, and you'll need to be constantly focusing on multiple things happening at once. It starts out very simple to play, but it is anything but. And a really great concept, I would say, for this kind of gameplay. And again, for someone who's looking for a very different kind of puzzle platforming, then you definitely want to give this one a play. Our next pick is a game that does a great job of not just only elevating puzzle design, but also the entire presentation of it as well, and it goes to Isles of Sea and Sky. The simplest way of describing this one would be, what if we combine The Legend of Zelda with Sokoban? You are exploring a giant world, and in order to make progress, you must be pushing lots and lots of boxes around. Now, if it was just straight up Sokoban, then this game would be nothing that we haven't already seen before. But the open-ended nature of this one, as well as its progression, give this game a very unique feel and kind of touch compared to some of the other ones that we've played. The puzzles will oftentimes have 2 or even more different solutions based on using different mechanics that are unlocked as you play through, giving this game like kind of like that quasi, I know people love this term, Metroidvania feel to it. As you explore, you'll collect the various items you need to make more progress. There are secret puzzles, there are secrets and secrets, and the game opens up the more that you play. What I really love about Isles is the presentation of the puzzle design. There are so many puzzle games that it's just, here's an entire sheet of levels, and it's just presented as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 20, 50, 60, 70, 80, 100. What Isles does is it wraps us up in the kind of open world action adventure format. So you're not kind of feeling that sense of, okay, here's 700 more box moving puzzles to do. But you have to actively explore. You're looking for the next thing, the next item. And the game does a great job of charting your progression and giving you that just one more turn, or in this case, one more MacGuffin to collect that will open up this door, that will open up a new route, that will open up a new series of puzzles, which may lead you to a new god, who will then open up new mechanics, which will then let you go back and do more puzzles, and so on and so forth. If you are a puzzle game fan, I highly recommend you play this one, and if you are a designer of puzzle games, definitely want you to look at this one in terms, again, of this presentation when it comes to puzzle design. Again, just a phenomenal game and easily one of the best that I've seen this year. Time manipulation style puzzle games are always a very rare and challenging treat, and our next entry is kind of this year's take on that theme with Time Turn. This is a puzzle game where your challenge is you must figure out the exact routing that you must take, as you'll be able to create kind of parallel versions of yourself in order to move and solve puzzles. It's similar to another puzzle game that is coming, I think, next year in that respect, but this one presents things, I think, a little bit more easier to parse, thanks to kind of keeping it to like a few screens, and it does a great job of, again, doing a lot of different varieties of puzzle designs and solutions with this whole mechanic of time rewind, parallel characters moving, and so on. So, if you love time manipulation with your puzzle solving and aren't perplexed by it, then give this one a play. We have a double Sokoban for this year's list with Arranger. If the Isles of Sea and Sky kind of elevated the whole Sokoban puzzle format, Arranger is a little bit more traditional in this respect, but it's backed up by having a gorgeous art style. I love the watercolor kind of look and feel to this one. In Arranger, you are exploring a world that you have the power of Sokoban, where everything will move according to how you move, presenting a very unusual way of moving around. This one, I would say, doesn't quite reach as far with its mechanics compared to Isles of Sea and Sky, but it does present things with a far more like emotional story to the kind of proceedings. There are boss battles, and again, if you aren't Sokoban out from our previous game or some of the other ones that I'm sure have been released, then this one is definitely worth a play and kind of see how far you can run or push with it. And for our last puzzle game of the list, we go to another Zack-like, but this one presented in a way that I feel does a great job of providing puzzles for the easy, moderate, and the brain-melting fans in the audience, and that is Linkito. Linkito, much like with Isles, does a great job of kind of wrapping the puzzle solving or the puzzles themselves in a very unique theme. Here, you are tasked to kind of keep this kind of futuristic city of tomorrow running, which means going to different departments, with each department having its own set of puzzles and logic to uncover. There's also puzzles where you actually have to set things up yourself. There's a full-on level editor, because of course there is for a game like this. And what I really like about with Linkito is it does a great way, much like with Isles, of presenting these puzzles in a manner that is very eye-catching and kind of lets you move through things at your own pace. Linkito does something similar. Since each department has its own rules and kind of puzzle mechanics to them, it means that it allows them to create the different puzzles that kind of go from easy to moderate to my brain's going to explode levels of complexity. So that you don't have to do all the puzzles at once. Once you do enough to kind of unlock the next apartment, you can just go. Some people will just sit in each apartment and do everything 100%, but it allows the player to move through the different elements. And because each mechanic or each department is different, you don't get that same sense of, okay, here's 800 more programming puzzles that are the exact same way. Here's 600 box sliding puzzles. 300 more Towers of Hanoi. which I know all of you love to do. Linkito, it would be the game that I would recommend if you are someone who likes the idea of like the Zack-like, that kind of building, programming-ish style, again, with something like an Infinifactory and that respect, but you don't want to immediately jump into the deep end in terms of complexity. Linkito does a great job of onboarding the player, and I would also recommend that you look at this game if you're having trouble in terms of designing puzzles that go from being beginner to moderate to advanced to, again, brain melty way in the back. Another really fantastic puzzle game, and one that I do want to eventually go back to and kind of see how much more I can connect things. And again, with the level editor, it means you can, of course, perplex your friends with an array of all variety of puzzles. And with that, another entry is done. What are your favorite perplexing and confusing, confounding puzzle games that you've played in 2024? Let me know once again in the comments. And we still have several more entries to get to. We have not even done roguelike or Metroidvania yet. So make sure to get a drink or 3, because those videos are going to get a bit long. Thank you for watching this part. Check out the other parts here in the playlist, and I will see everyone for our next entry. Thanks for watching, and a special thank you to our Patreon supporters. If you enjoyed the video, do the YouTubing stuff, be sure to visit our Discord and Patreon, and if you're interested in more of my thoughts on design, check out my game design books.